I grew up on a street with 15 boys. We played baseball every day. All of us were aspiring professional baseball players. I was going to be a pitcher for the New York Yankees. And we all went out and tried out for Little League together. On the day we were drafted, a very tall father came up and stood beside me and opened the Little League rule book. And on page 14, in the center of the page, were 4 words that would change my life forever. And they were, "No girls are allowed."
Coming from a minor sport like tennis, always wanted to be a big sport because I grew up around big sports like basketball and baseball. I knew I couldn't be a baseball player because I was a girl. I learned that when I was 9 years old. And I was watching a Pacific Coast League baseball game, and I'll never forget, that was the moment of truth for me. I realized I could not play baseball because I am a girl.
The NCAA basketball finals at
the oldest college sports organization, the National Collegiate Athletic Association, the NCAA, excluded women from their competitions. And in most colleges and high schools, women's teams were run like clubs.
There were no state high school championships. Your coaches were volunteer physical education teacher coaches. You either made your own uniforms or, kind of they were hand-me-downs.
It seemed like the most popular female activity, of course, was to be a cheerleader. But my dad really said, look, and this was probably the most profound thing for me. He said, cheerleading is for spectating. You should play in the game and have people cheer for you. Do not be a spectator, be a participant.
But even the participants sometimes found themselves on the sidelines. Donna de Verona returned from the 1964 Olympics with 2 gold medals. She was only 17, but unlike the men on the team, her swim career would end.
Don Schollander sets a new Olympic record.
Don Schollander was going off to Yale, and all my male counterparts were getting scholarships. There were no women getting phone calls to offer scholarships because they didn't exist. It just wasn't a thought. Women were supposed to quit, maybe go to school and get married. You come back for an Olympics and you win 2 gold medals, you've been on every cover, and your male counterparts are going to the best schools and universities in America on a scholarship. There's some subtle feeling that your gold medals aren't as valuable as theirs are.
Billie Jean King had a similar realization when she and her former husband were in college.
We were walking hand in hand by the tennis courts. And he looked at me and said, you're a second-class citizen. You're the best-known person in this whole school. You bring more prestige to the school. And guess what? You can't get a grant. Why can't you get a grant? Because you're a girl.
Athletes like Billie Jean King decided they would no longer accept them.
We finally decided we have to do something about it ourselves.
Swept up in the tide of social change,
The Civil Rights Act of 1964 is signed at the White House by President Johnson.
they began to demand an equal playing field.
In the 60s, we were on the eve of the women's liberation movement. That was a period of great sexual contentiousness where many women were charging forward and wanting to be able to sit in a men's bar, for instance. I couldn't figure out why on earth they'd want to do that, but of course then I crashed the Boston Marathon. And when I crossed the finish line, there were about 6 or 7 journalists. I said, hey, I'm going to be back next year. This race should be open to women. I'm going to create opportunities for women.
Switzer organized women to crash the marathon each year until women were officially welcomed in 1972. Billie Jean King persuaded women tennis players to start a league of their own, the Women's Tennis Association.
We were so scared. We were very ostracized. We were suspended from our associations. We didn't know what was going to happen to our lives.
But women's athletics was about to be changed for good in a way none of them imagined, by an unusual discrimination complaint that had nothing to do with athletics. It was the case of Bernice Sandler, overlooked for a faculty position at the University of Maryland.
I asked one of the guys I knew, and I said, how come they didn't even consider me? And without even thinking or hesitating, he said, let's face it, Bunny, that's my nickname, let's face it, Bunny, you just come on too strong for a woman.
Laws had been added to the Civil Rights Act to ban discrimination against women in the workplace, but not in education.
Lots of undergraduate schools had quota systems for young women. Virtually all medical schools did, virtually all law schools, virtually all engineering schools. Some of them wouldn't even let women in.
Then Sandler discovered an executive order by President Lyndon Johnson that barred discrimination by government contractors.
I made the immediate connection. Universities and colleges had contracts, federal contracts, therefore they were prohibited, if not by other laws, at least by this executive order, they were prohibited from sex discrimination.
It was the origin of what would become Title IX. Sandler filed the first formal complaint of sex discrimination against a university. That led other women to file complaints against more than 250 schools. A few members of Congress took notice. They held hearings and drafted legislation to give women full access and equal treatment in education.
We decided that we would write these, rather common, ordinary words of equal opportunity, and the trigger was that if you did not offer girls the same opportunity in education, then the federal funds that you would receive would be taken away from you.
We knew that if we got this law passed upon the signature of the president, it would immediately take effect.
The bill was quietly slipped into the middle of the Higher Education Amendment to the 1964 Civil Rights Act.
We had to keep it quiet. If we were beating our breasts and bragging about this, and calling press conferences and hullabalooing, it might not have been a done deal.
I remember a group of us going to Representative Edith Green. We said, we're ready to lobby, tell us what you want us to do. And she said, people don't know what's in this bill. She said, if you start lobbying, they're going to ask what's in it. She said, trust me, it's going to pass.
Their strategy paid off. On June 23, 1972, President Richard Nixon signed into law the Higher Education Amendment, and with it, Title IX. Title IX said nothing about athletics, but it would turn the sports world upside down.
We were focusing on fellowships and going to law school and not thinking that the dramatic change was going to come in athletics. That's what blew the top off this whole thing.
Many internet services use lots of words to sell you, but conveniently forget to tell you how much they cost. Just for the record, most cost over $20 a month. Meanwhile, NetZero and Juno are only $9.95, less than half the price. Maybe the others prefer words because the numbers speak for themselves. Join the millions who have united online. Call 877 only $9.95 or visit us at netzero.net or juno.com. Additional phone charges may apply.
Your mama always told you to eat your spinach, but it's your papa who will finally get you to love it. Introducing Papa John's Spinach Alfredo Pizza, made with a creamy garlic Parmesan sauce. Or try our new 6-cheese specialty pizza, a gourmet blend of 6 delicious cheeses. Right now, order a large Spinach Alfredo or 6-cheese pizza for $10.99 and get 2 20-ounce Coca-Cola products absolutely free. Also, register to win a new Jeep Liberty Sport in our Liberty Tour sweepstakes. Better ingredients, better pizza. Papa John's.
How to speak Australian. Conservationist. Beer. Foster's Australian for beer.
I was forced to actually play on a boys team when I was a little kid. I wanted to play baseball. I didn't want to play softball.
I don't know what it's like to not have the opportunity. I can't even imagine a life like that.
ESPN's Women in Sports Weekend continues tomorrow.
I'm glad for it. That's why I love it, because we're going to put those women right back where they belong, like they used to be when we had the slippers and pipe.
What a scene it is.
The 1973 Battle of the Sexes between Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggs put sports at the center of the Battle of Title IX.
Live from the Astrodome in Houston, Texas, the tennis battle of the sexes, Billie Jean King versus Bobby Riggs.
1 year after the new law was passed, 40 million people were watching on television as King beat Riggs in 3 straight sets.
It is over. Let's watch